I've been reading the Bible. I'll tell you about what I've been reading this week. But first, let's get ready. All right, this is what we're going to do. I will do a little clapping thing, and you copy me. First you watch, and then you copy, okay? Got it? Easy. Got it? You doing it? And then that's it. Okay. Those are different things that we're going to do at different times as we're talking about what I was reading this week. Well, remember, there's the Old Testament and the New Testament. In the Old Testament, we read about things that happened after God created the earth and everything, and after God started the nation of Israel. We read about that God took care of the Israelites, the people who lived in Israel. First, God rescued the Israelites from Egypt. They had been slaves, stuck in Egypt for 400 years. That was a long time. They were feeling so bad. So they started praying to God, help us, help us. And God rescued them. He rescued them by sending Moses. He sent Moses to lead them out of Egypt and to lead them all the way through the desert wilderness to get to the place that God had prepared and planned for them to live. It was called Israel. Well, as they were leaving, they had food with them. They baked some bread, and they were taking that along with them. And they were, do that with me? They were walking. And they walked for several days, and the bread ran out. Oh, they ate it all. So when the bread ran out, they started to be, rub your stomach and say, I'm feeling hungry. They were hungry. They were starting to feel hungry. Okay, now, kind of squeeze up on your head. Don't hurt yourself, but squeeze there. And just be worried. Say, I'm feeling kind of worried. They started to be hungry. They were kind of worried. And then do this, like mumble, mumble. They started to complain. Okay, we're going to do this together. I will say a sentence, and then you say it back, but we'll keep on clapping. Where did all the bread go? It went all away. Moses, we need more bread. What do you have to say? Did you clap and say it after me? Okay. That was them complaining to Moses. So Moses asked God, what should we do? There's no bread in the wilderness. The bread is all gone. And God said, I will provide the bread. And he did. So after that, each morning when they got up, there was like little bread wafer looking things, like little crackers maybe, that was out, spread all over the ground. And the people called it manna. Manna means, what is it? They hadn't seen it before on the ground like that. But it was a bread that God provided, and it was, very healthy for them to eat. So that's all that they needed to eat all the time that they were walking. Right, good. Walking through the wilderness. And that was a long time. That was 40 years. Every day, God provided that bread for the Israelites. And that was good. That's what they needed. Well, now, let's turn over to the New Testament. The New Testament tells us about the time when Jesus came to earth. It talks about that, what he did while he was on earth. It talks about when Jesus died and then he rose again from the dead and he went back up into heaven. That's where he is now. And it tells us about the people who believed Jesus. And so they started living for God and became the whole group of people that we call the church. That's what's in the New Testament. And in the New Testament, we read some things about bread. Well, when Jesus was on earth, he was walking a lot. Did you walk with me? That's what Jesus was doing. All over, telling people about God's plan, telling people about how to be saved from their sins, telling people about how to have eternal life, offering it to people. And Jesus had 12 disciples with him, and they went everywhere that Jesus did. The disciples had a very busy life with Jesus, and they got to see amazing things because Jesus performed miracles. They got to see that. So when Jesus was on earth and doing all of this with his disciples, people came to see him and to hear him. And it wasn't very long before there were like crowds of people around Jesus almost all the time. There was one time that Jesus decided that he needed some time alone with his disciples. He had some important things he wanted to talk to them about. So where they were at that time, they were right next to a very nice big lake. And on one side of the lake, there were towns and lots of people were living there. But over on the other side of the lake, it was just grass and trees and some nice hills and no towns, no people over there. So Jesus and his disciples got into a boat. Pretend that you're getting in a boat. Get in there, sit down, pick up your oars. 1 oar, 2 oar, hold them like that. And then do this. Rowing, you're rowing the boat. Well, that's what Jesus and the disciples did. They got in the boat and they rowed it all the way across the lake so that they could be by themselves for a while. Well, guess what happened then? Somebody saw Jesus and the disciples getting in the boat and they said, "Hey, there goes Jesus. I'm going to follow him. I want to be near him." And somebody else said, "Oh, me too. I want to go too." And pretty soon there were lots of people who said, "We're going too." And they all started, they couldn't get in the boat. So they started walking, yep. And some of the people started running along the shore to catch up over there so that they could see Jesus. Well, there was a reason that they were going to see and be near to Jesus. When Jesus was on earth, he healed lots of people. Put your hand on your stomach like it's sick. Oh, put your hand on your head like, oh, you just have a headache, and just say, "Oh, I'm sick. I'm feeling sick." Are you doing it? Don't really be sick, just pretend. Did you do it? So these people were thinking, okay, if I can get near to Jesus, maybe I can stop feeling sick. And maybe he'll heal me. I've heard that he does that for people. So they were hurrying. Once they knew that he did that, they would do anything they had to do to get close to him. So Jesus and the disciples, they rowed across the shore, across the lake to the shore. And they got out of the boat and they went and they sat down in the grass and then they started to talk. And then Jesus looked over and he saw, oh, here came a lot of people and on the shore to him. And when Jesus saw them, the Bible tells us that he felt compassion for them. Like, oh, he knew that Jesus was the one that they needed. He knew they needed him. So what he did was to start talking with the people and start healing the people. He spent all day with the people that came to see him. The disciples watched him all day helping people. Well then, say I'm hungry again. I'm hungry, I think I'm hungry. Got to be about dinner time. The disciples were looking at each other saying, yeah, I'm hungry. How about you? Yeah, I'm feeling hungry too. Then they looked out at all of those people, the big crowd of people, and they said, oh dear, those poor people, they're probably hungry too. Oh. So they went to see Jesus and to tell him what they were thinking. And they said, Jesus, you know what? You had better send all these people away so they can get back to the towns and they can buy some food, because I'm sure they're very hungry. And Jesus said to them, no, it's okay. You go ahead and feed them. Well, they didn't know what to say too much about that, so they didn't have food. They didn't bring any. They said, you know, Jesus, even if we could buy food for these people, it would take like piles and stacks of money. There's thousands of people out there. Thousands. I think there's like 5,000 just men, and they all brought wives, and they brought their children, and we couldn't do that. Jesus said, how much food do you have? They said, well, we didn't bring any food, but we did meet a little boy. He's kind of right over there, and he brought a lunch. I think he's the only one in the whole crowd. He's the only one we've seen who brought a lunch. But Jesus, in his lunch, he showed us the lunch. He's got 5 little rolls of bread and 2 little fish. What good is that going to do with all these people? But Jesus seemed happy about that. And he said, oh, okay. Well then, now go out through the crowds of people and tell them to sit down in groups, like to sit in a group of 50, and some of them can sit in a group of 100, and just have them all sit on the nice grass. And so the disciples were like, huh, well, okay. So they went and they said to the people, okay, it's time for everybody now. Sit down and get yourself together, like about 50 people together here, and you people over here, why don't you get about 100 people together right there, and can you hear me over there? Tell the people behind you and tell those people over there to get into groups like that. And so it took a little while. There was a lot of people, but pretty soon everybody was sitting down in little groups. I mean, little groups, not thousands of people, but 50 or 100 people. And then Jesus took the 5 little loaves of bread, took the 2 little fish, he held it in his hands, and he looked up to heaven. And he thanked God for the meal that they were all about to eat. Jesus knew just what he was doing. The disciples did not know. They couldn't wait to see. They'd seen Jesus do wonderful things before. So Jesus told them, okay, bring over your food baskets. People used to carry like a little basket kind of thing with them. So he said, bring those over. And he broke the bread and the fish into pieces, and he put some in each of the 12 disciples' bag baskets there. And then he said, now go distribute it, take it to the people. And they said, okay. So they got out there and they handed the basket to a person who was like first in line of the group, and he said, take some food and then pass it to the person next to you. And they said, okay. So they took out some food and they passed it, and they took out some food, and then the next person took out, whoa, a lot of food. And they kept passing it, and then back behind, and it went and went and went and went, until the Bible tells us what happened is that everyone ate and ate and ate until they were all satisfied. That means they had enough to eat, and they felt just happy and good. And then Jesus said to the disciples, now take your food baskets there and go and collect all the leftovers. Like the leftovers, it was the little bread rolls and the little fish. It was leftovers. He said, okay. So they went and they said, do you have any leftover? Yeah, I got some here. Okay, would you put it in the basket? Yeah, there you go. And would you pass it to the next people and see if they have leftovers? And yeah, sure. So everybody passed the baskets all around, the bread baskets, and then the disciples picked them up. 12 baskets. Remember how many disciples there are? 12 disciples. When they picked them up, they had 12 baskets full of bread for the disciples. They could eat that, they could take some home, they could do whatever they wanted. It was for them. That was a wonderful thing that happened with the people that day. Okay, now we're going to do this. Just keep doing it. Unless you get too tired, you can stop if you get too tired, but we're going to do it for quite a while. And I'll say a sentence, and you listen, and then you keep on with your walking, and you say the sentence back. You ready? Walking to see Jesus. I'll walk fast as I can. Walking to see Jesus, 'cause he's the healing man. We all had to hurry to catch up with him. Walking to see Jesus, 'cause he's the healing man. Did you do it? Okay. This way now. We spent all day with Jesus, and that was very good. But now we all are starting to think about some food. Did you say that part? Okay, well, let's do this now. Spent all day with Jesus, but we have a hunch. Nobody in this crowd remembered to bring lunch. Jesus said, don't worry. Watch and you will see. Everybody sit down and have some bread from me. Isn't that good?